you, thank you very much. Thank you to our witnesses also for attending. Grueling 3 hours. It can't be easy. I certainly wouldn't like to be in your shoes at this point, but fair play for offering to come in and try clarify a lot of the issues that have arisen over the past 3 weeks. I think that's commendable. That said, I think what the PAC session has done, it has posed further questions. And Mr. Kelly, I particularly want to focus on the raising of those two €75,000 invoices. Sure. The fact that clearly they're raised with the description consultancy fees. Now, I think it's fair to say that I doubt anybody looking in at the previous session when we see that it was raised for consultancy fees, clearly, which it wasn't for. When we see that these particular invoices were raised under CMS as opposed to NK, which would be the usual, people are incredibly skeptical. People are very questioning. People have serious doubts as to whether you didn't knowingly conceal these payments, and you didn't work with RT in knowingly concealing the fact that these payments were coming from sure. RT. Can you respond to that, because that sure. is the mood out
sure.
there?
And thank you for having us here. In relation to that, were there deceptive practices on behalf of RTE? There were, and we were deceived as well, as we'd said earlier on. We had no knowledge whatsoever of the arrangement and no part.
But you knew they were for consultancy fees, and they weren't actually it wasn't for consultancy. That's the doubt that everybody has.
So we were instructed by RTE, for the second and third invoice to the Renner Roadshow to make those invoices out to ask us for consultancy services and send them to RTE, and that they would look after them from there.
Okay, we've heard.
At that time, we didn't know who Astis was, but we presumed that it was.
Can you understand
of Renner.
Can you understand why people are sceptical? Can you understand why people have concerns? The fact that it was consultancy fees was the description.
But they're the facts.
You said earlier that you were just following a process. Mm-hmm. Are you aware of any process, either in corporate governance or accounting, that allows for an invoice to be raised with a description that it's not actually for?
Well, I think again we were. It was what we were asked to do. Like as I said, we're a small company. They're a €350 million massive organisation.
But that's a serious. I mean,
no. But you'd have to appreciate that if somebody says invoice, can you invoice that? That you know. Okay. And again, we were acting under instructions at all times.
Okay. So just on the same issue, Mr. Toverty, not being facetious here, but how would you describe your profession?
Broadcaster, or yeah.
Okay, never consultancy.
Not necessarily. No, I mean I don't know how anyone else just chooses to describe my job, but I know what I do.
You've never partaken in consultancy. You don't do consultancy as your profession. You're a broadcaster.
No, I don't know what the dictionary definition of consultancy is. I'm not being smart, but I suspect no.
Okay, so that comes back to Mr. Kelly's part in this and the raising of the invoices. He knowingly raised the invoices with the term consultancy fees on the invoice. Yeah. You know you're not a consultant. I'm sure Mr. Kelly knows that you're not providing consultancy in any way, shape or form. I mean, I suppose what I'm trying to get at here is, do you still have full trust, faith in Mr. Kelly, considering that it seems to be clear to everybody that there was some form of deception here with RT and Mr. Kelly using the term consultancy fees and also using a separate company that had never been used before?
Yes.
Do you still have full faith?
I do have full faith, yes, I do, in Noel, and I think that he was doing his job, and in the course of his job he was given instructions, and in the course of the instructions he carried them out.
And you're happy that those instructions were to raise the invoice for consultancy fees, and he just went and did that without asking any questions?
Well, we would never have discussed that. I think that I would, if
but,
I was.
But now you know. Sorry.
Oh no, sorry. You're asking after the event. It was a bit late now. I mean, yes, I think that if I was to look at so many of the things that I've been hearing at the various, Oireachtas hearings of the last 2 weeks, there's a lot of room for better practice around the place, and I suspect that as of Monday, with the new Director General, that's going to happen.
But I
think in some ways this is cathartic.
Not quite the question. The way the PAC committee played out this morning, the 3 hours,
yes,
where a lot of questions were put to Mr. Kelly about the description of the invoices as consultancy fees, the fact that they came from CMS, which was different to how they would usually come from. I mean, there's a lot of doubts there among the public.
Yeah.
You knowing that now, and all of that being brought up today at today's PAC, can you still honestly say, despite, the public sentiment out there, that you still have full faith and that you will continue to let Mr. Kelly represent you?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Yes, I will.
Even though we hear the new DG on RT Radio yesterday, Kevin Backhurst, when it was put the question specifically in relation to Mr. Kelly, he was asked, would he work with agents like Mr. Kelly again? He was asked, this is a yes or no answer. He said, not a definite yes, not a definite no, but he said, and I paraphrase, in all likelihood, it's a no. Does that not put your future at RTE in serious jeopardy?
No, it doesn't. I mean, I can still work with Noel and negotiate an agreement with RTE. It's different jobs. Noel, RTE is one element of what I do for a living.
So potentially any future arrangement you have with RTE would exclude Noel services?
What would you say to that?
No, not necessarily. Sorry, if I could ask, or just add to that. We manage a number of people. A lot of them don't have enough, most of them are not full-time broadcasters. They have bits and pieces of work. I represent them. I am their shop steward, I'm their union. I'm the only thing between them and absolutely nothing. Sorry, you have to get this right. So are you saying to me that a Director General would say...
Did you hear the DG's comments yesterday?
I read them, but these people can't have representation.
What I got from those comments was, in all likelihood, you wouldn't be willing to work with you again. I mean,
I think it wasn't a flat no, but we will have to see.
Okay. Just in relation to, again, the €150,000, and I'm just trying to get to the bottom of facts here and trying to establish things. When did the €150,000 for those two latter invoices in particular, the two €75,000 invoices, when did they go to, they would have gone to your account first, Mr. Kelly?
We would have invoiced them. We would have invoiced Astus, and then they were paid. Yeah, but those two invoices, so the first invoice was paid by Renault.
Yeah.
And the second two invoices were paid
together
by Astus. Sorry, if I could just explain, were paid by Astus, and therefore the first three events have happened. So those two invoices are for the next 6 events that are still contracted. So,
okay.
as I said,
just want a kind of direct answer to the actual questions. When did the €150,000 for those latter two invoices go into it would be the CMS account?
Well, bear me a second. 2022.
2022, okay. And Mr. Tubley or Mr. Kelly, one of you might be able to answer this. When did they go then into the Tuttle account? I presume they would have gone from, the payment of 150 would then have gone from you into the Tuttle account.
I don't have those. I wouldn't know what that was.
Could you find out that information?
It'll be in the 2022.
In the 2022.
Yeah.
So it would have been prior to the publication of the top earners on the 15th of February, I think, in 2023. Basically, Mr. Tubley, I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that you would have seen this €150,000 come into your account. You would have seen that then it wasn't represented in the payments in February 2023. And I know you apologised for it before,
sorry, the 2023 publications was only for 2020-21 earnings. So it wasn't, when the RT publication was only for 2020-2021. Because generally they're 3 years.
But
they're 3 years behind as such. And as I said this morning as well, we get 10 minutes notice that these are going out.
But the invoice is related to which years?
The invoice is related to 2021-22.
So part of those 2022, part of the earnings that were published in February 2023 would have been related to 2021 as well.
They're still to be done.
Still to be done, okay. Yeah. I've got 1 minute left, so I'll just move on very quickly. Mr. Tubley, in July of 2020, you got a letter addressed to you from the then DG, D. Forbes, basically stating the purpose of this correspondence is to record in writing our guarantee and our undertaking that the fees set out in this agreement will be paid by RTE without any reductions, and RTE shall not make any request or inquiry from you in relation to a reduction in the agreed fees during the currency of the agreements, save as those that might be imposed by changes to legislation. So essentially it's a letter saying that you will get no further reduction in fees or a reduction in earnings. How does that sit with you, knowing that colleagues around you were taking pay cuts left, right and centre, but you have this, essentially it's special treatment. If myself and Alan here, if I was to receive a letter saying that, Christopher, you won't receive any further pay cuts, but Alan didn't get the same letter, that's special treatment for me. How does that sit with you?
I think it's probably important to mention the 40% pay cut I've taken. And I think that would be a relevant figure here in these conversations. I think what happens is, Deputy, is that some numbers have been isolated somewhat unfairly. And the truth of the matter is I did take pay cuts. And since 2012, I think, or more.
For the 6 years, 2012 to
2012 to 20, it was some total sum of approximately 40%.
You received a letter from the DG that no other staff or employee, to my knowledge, would have received. Does that not kind of scream special treatment?
Can I answer that one? That was a request that was in the contract negotiations, and why it was because Brian had taken 120,000 of this 345 was never invoiced for and never taken. Ryan had never invoiced it, so he decided not to take that payment. Then in the 20 contract, which is 2021 to 23-24, he reduces his earnings voluntarily by 105,000. So that was 525 plus the 120 which he didn't take. So overall from 12...
That's not really what I'm asking.
No, I know, but sorry.
Kind of
okay, yes, very well. So my last question is to Mr. Tubridy again. Do you accept now, in your opening statement, you say that you actually took a 20% pay cut. Now, I thought Deputy McAuliffe's questioning earlier very clearly outlined that, in fact, this wasn't a 20% pay cut because those €75,000 invoices were coming from RTE. They were underwritten by RTE, essentially coming from the licence fee holder and the taxpayer and going into your account.
Yes.
Do you accept now that it's not a 20%?
No, unfortunately not. This is one of the great kind of fog of war situations here where the money that came in, enormous amount of money, I don't deny it for a moment, but it came from, of course, as we understood it, from Renault. So we thought it was it was a totally different agreement entirely. It was an independent contractor agreement that Renault were paying for it. And that was the understanding. That's what I was told. I had to accept that for what it is. I can't.
But now you know
you
know how it worked. It was an underwriting. It was those two €75,000 invoices were underwritten by RT, paid for by RT, taxpayers, TV license holders, to your account. Do you not accept that you actually haven't taken a 20% pay cut? It represents much less than that.
Sorry.
Deputy O'Sullivan, I'm sorry, we'll have to conclude, okay?